have with us Mr. Wu Shiwei. He is the CTO of Huawei Cloud Asia Pacific. We also have Mr. Ian Lim, Field CISO of Asia Pacific Palo Alto Networks, and Ms. AJ Villanueva. She is the business head of PLDT Enterprise. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm collecting some questions for you here from the floor. The first one is for Wu Shiwei. What are the key technology themes that FSI needs to implement during and even post-pandemic?
Okay, sure. I believe there are really a number of technology themes that FSIs need to implement, but for this time, I think there are three of them are the most important. So the first one is, I think, is remote, which is very obvious because people are advised to stay at home. So the way to get the financial services is really through remote channels or online channels. So that's why we see, technologies like eKYC or digital onboarding that has been made common these days. But I believe the FSIs really need to try deliver the entire business workflow online remotely, such as ID verification, document sharing, customer consent, digital signature. So the entire process has to be carried out remotely. And the second one, I think, is real time, as people prefer real time anyway, always. But in the pandemic, I think it becomes more important because, especially for SMEs, to receive a loan waiting for months, it's probably not something that they can accept. So we are seeing, the banks are launching services such as digital loans, which aim to provide small amount credit-based loans in real time. So once the user are experiencing this type of convenient real-time services, I think it will be very difficult to switch back even post-pandemic. And last one, I think, is ecosystem connection because many industries are suffering, such as retail business, and O2O is becoming one of the important channels to sustain the business. So as a critical piece such as payment, the FSIs really need to make sure their services can be embedded into this O2O business workflow. And the services they made, it has to make integrations as seamless as possible. So I believe these three are the most important during even post-pandemic. Thank you.
Okay, so remote, real-time ecosystem. Thank you for that good answer. We have another question here, which is directed to Ian Lim. How can financial institutions better manage supply chain cyber risks?
Sure. Let me give you practical advice. I'll give you three, right? So firstly, you want to prioritize your critical suppliers. Secondly, definitely look to reduce your attack surface. And third, build a cohesive defense in depth. Let me go into detail, right? So prioritizing critical suppliers is really about, you've got so many suppliers and covering the breadth of them, it's not going to give you very good due diligence. So finding your critical suppliers, those that truly impact your business and impact your supply chain, are the ones that you want to focus on, and you want to go deeper on those. Reducing your attack surface is really about looking at all these various point solutions that you have and rationalizing your applications. I would suggest going more towards a platform play where you have a lot more capabilities wrapped around single suppliers as opposed to having 10, 15, 20, 30 suppliers doing all your various functions, right? So definitely think about platforms. And then lastly, building a cohesive defense in depth. Now, the supply chain attacks like SolarWinds essentially it's a tainted software in your environment. But in the anatomy of an attack, the supply chain soft malware calls home. There's a beacon going out. So if you have a defense in depth that works together, it would be able to detect that even though you had a tainted supply, a tainted software. So definitely build a cohesive defense in that. Last thing I want to say is that the NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology, did a study on Palo Alto Networks, a case study on how we do our supply chain. I encourage you to search for that on the internet, and that will give you more insight about how to do it.
Excellent. So there is actually the answer to this question already on the internet and specific of game plan for you there. Let's move on to Ms. AJ Villanueva. Question for you from the floor. What are your thoughts on the local financial sector's cloud adoption? Is it good? Are we there? Are we better than expected? Worse than expected? Tell us.
Thank you, Danny, for that question. As the economic vanguards, it is evident that the country's financial services sector is leading the migration to cloud technologies, and the banking sector has seen profound acceleration in digital banking initiatives as part of its digital transformation strategy. This is also recognized by the Asian Cloud Computing Association, which recently released a report on the readiness and the maturity of cloud computing innovation and adoption in terms of regulatory environment and support. And I'm pleased to say that the Philippines was ranked third behind Singapore and Japan, the first. So I echo the sentiments of BSP and the FSI thought leaders here that there's really no substitute for strong fundamentals in the internet and cloud computing. That's why we're also advocating to the rest of the financial services sector to join our revolution and, move to cloud already. Not only just to reduce major IT capital expenses, right? But also to mitigate various IT, strategic, and operational risk, and overall improve your operational efficiency. And, we need to be future proof and ready for any kind of disruption in this day and age. And if skill set, cloud management, security policy are concerns, PLDT can help on these as our end-to-end digital partner, as we have helped many.
Excellent. I think this ties in with the previous panel of Ms. Malen, saying that the cash is no longer king. At the moment, it's time to start adapting here and using the technology, particularly in the FSI space. I have a question here for Wu Shiwei. Still on the story of cloud, what roles do cloud vendors need to play to support FSI?
Sure. The cloud vendors are playing increasing important roles in the supporting FSI, especially during this pandemic. So, of course, in terms of technology support, one of the key features of cloud is really about the resource provisioning instantly and scaling. But during pandemic, you can see we have to implement a lot of systems to support uncatered situations such as working from home. So buying new hardware, waiting for them to arrive in months' time, it's not something practical. So cloud is widely adopted for launching new services on cloud. But also, I think for FSIs, they're no longer just looking at the fundamental infrastructure services. They're also looking at cloud-native services such as the OCR services to support eKYC, RTC services to support online video conferencing, etc. So for cloud vendors, now it is really the time to look at the cloud-native advanced services, platform as services, rather than just the infrastructure services. And also, I think cloud vendors also need to play the roles in terms of the advisory and the influencers in terms of software applications, for example, because there's no point of reinventing the wheel. So if there are some of the solutions, innovative solutions especially, has been implemented, has been tested in other markets, then why don't you just bring it to the marketplace and scale it with other customers? And with saying all this, speed to market, not reinvent the wheel, but we also should not forget about the security as well. Security should always place in the first priority. But when we look at the FSIs, when you talk about a massive scaling production systems, putting on cloud, is still something very scary to a lot of SIs. So the cloud vendors really need to address this solution by not just publishing white papers, but really working with the FSI, hand-holding them in terms of building a secure cloud infrastructure at step one. Thank you.
This is exactly the next question. I think you might have already answered it, but maybe Ian has something to add because this question was for you. How do financial services organizations maintain a consistent security posture in a public cloud, multi-cloud, and hybrid cloud infrastructure? So exactly that. How do they do this thing?
Yeah, and a lot of us are on various cloud journeys, right? Some of us, in the fintech world are born in the cloud. A lot of us are, coming from data centers on premise and moving to the cloud. And then what we end up finding is that we have, a whole set of point solutions for our on-premise capabilities and a whole set of other point solutions for one different cloud CSP that we're using and another set for a third CSP we're using, right? And so I think, I mentioned this in my earlier question about supply chain as well. There's definitely a move towards platform, harmonizing all these various policies as well as control, as well as threat management, right? The ability for you to be able to bring, all these various solutions, endpoint protection on premise, server protection on premise, cloud firewalls, SASE capabilities, bringing it all together and bringing all that threat telemetry together so that you can automate and orchestrate against, the threats of today is absolutely fundamental. Again, my answer there is, definitely look for a platform that is able to serve your needs both on-prem, in a hybrid cloud solution, in a multi-cloud solution, in a multi-stack solution, whether you're doing container, whether you're doing serverless, whether you're doing infrastructure as code, and in a full life cycle, right? Not just on deployment or runtime, but configuration, deployment, runtime, et cetera. You want to have a platform that can serve your needs there. And the last thing I'd say about the platform, that it's not only more secure, it will ultimately give you a better return on investment. Your staffing needs that they're logging into 10, 15, 20 different systems. They log into one, they learn one, they get better, right? So, I guarantee you, collapsing all these 10, 15 different systems will not only reduce your attack surface, but will save you money as well. So platform is the answer.
Excellent. And, as you mentioned there, this investment in that platform will be coming back to you in the form of ROI. So it should really be a cost-benefit approach here. And last question we've got here for Ms. AJ, very related as well to the previous two questions. How specifically does EPLDT stay up to date with the latest cybersecurity news and use cases affecting banks, insurance, and financial services? Do you just go online, figure things out? Do you have sources that everybody else doesn't have? How do you keep yourself updated?
Thanks, Danny, for this question. Our ICT arm, EPLDT, is the first and only Philippine organizational member of FIRST, the global leader in incident response. So by being an official affiliate of the Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams, this strengthens our cybersecurity capabilities and enables us to respond better to security incidents. EPLDT also maintains its own cyber threat intelligence coming from multiple sources, from local and global threat feeds. And we also have existing customers in their financial services sector, which gives us the visibility on the current threats that they're facing as well. And, this bolsters our portfolio and strengthens EPLDT's Security Operations Center in preventing, monitoring, and responding to over 1.5 million of cyber threats encountered at the start of the year. And, these are just some of the capabilities that allow our customers to get the best telco-grade cybersecurity service in the country. And it's all through a subscription model. And this is a testament of our unwavering commitment in improving our capabilities and in turn support our community and our digital economy as a thriving nation.
Thank you so much for that. And 1.5 million threats, I'm sure that's increasing exponentially as we speak right now. So really a lot of security needs to be done in a platform way, as suggested as well earlier. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That was, of course, Mr. Wu Shiwei of Huawei, Mr. Ian Lim of Palo Alto Networks, and Ms. AJ Villanueva of PLDT Enterprise.